Hello, everybody. Welcome back to my Are Good Events YouTube channel. My name is Lucy, and I have a very special guest again today, and that's another Kriya Yoga teacher, and that's Ryan Philip Strong from the United States. Hello, Ryan. It's really nice having you.
Hello. It's nice being here. Thank you.
Thank you for being here. And I'm going to introduce Ryan a little bit, and then I will leave it up to him to share something more. So, Ryan is an Ayurvedic doctor, also an educator, and also a Kriya Yoga teacher and a Vedic astrologer. And you also have a Center for Ayurvedic and Yogic Healing, if that's correct. That's in
Yep,
Sacramento.
that's correct. Yep.
And you have been um, another student of Roy Eugene Davis and also a friend of Ryan Kurczak, my teacher. So I would like you to share something more about your path of Kriya Yoga. When did you first, and how did you come across these teachings, and then how long have you been doing meditation? How long have you been a Kriya Yoga teacher? And also, I would like you to share with us your experience with Roy Eugene Davis.
Yeah.
And the topic for today is how meditation impacts the nervous system. So before we delve deeper into that, I would like you to start on the personal note more.
Yeah.
So if you can please tell us something more about your path.
Absolutely. I was very lucky to, well, first off, I was very lucky that my mom had a couple books of Yoganandas when I was growing up. And I didn't read them, but there was a picture of Yogananda on one of his books, Man's Eternal Quest. We didn't have the autobiography of a yogi, but we had Man's Eternal Quest, and we also had Whispers from Eternity. So these books were just at my house, and when I became like a teenager, I started kind of reading them, flipping through them, more so the Man's Eternal Quest. And it was a situation where it kind of felt like if I was going through a hard time, I would open the book and then it would just kind of speak to me, you know. But I was a normal teenager. I was getting having a lot of fun and partying and kind of wild in some ways. But one day I was reading Yogananda's book, and it's a kind of a bigger story, but that's what kind of initiated me into wanting to know more. I was reading the book and I had a inner experience when I was 17, and that kind of changed the direction of my life. Um, I tried to join the Self-Realization Fellowship. I took their lessons and even sent away I applied to be a monk in secret. I didn't tell any family or friends. Um, but long story short was around the age of 19, I was able to finally find a teacher. I knew I needed a real teacher, someone that was, what I mean real is embodied, alive. And I wanted that more than anything, is to learn Kriya Yoga and to have a real teacher.
Mhm.
And so back in around the 1999, year 2000, I found Mr. Davis and I wrote to him, and the center that he ran, they sent me a letter saying that he would be in Phoenix in March of the year 2000. So I was able to meet him then and start a relationship with them, and it was in 2001 yeah, it was still the year 2000, or maybe it was 2001. I'll have to go back and look. But around that time, that's when I started traveling out to the center and spending 3 weeks with him at a time at a private retreat. And I took initiation, and then in 2003, I asked to be a disciple, right? Which is just kind of a scary word for a lot of people, but it's just a commitment. It's a formal commitment to the learning process. And to be accepted, you have to ask, and then you have to be accepted. And so it's kind of like an informal, but also very formal initiation into a deeper commitment to that teacher-student relationship and practice. And I was very lucky to have found a real teacher. And I'll talk more about him, uh, how normal and extraordinary he was, but he was very real, very grounded. But it was during that time that I discovered Ayurveda, the same year. And for years I was in college, and I kept changing my major, and so I was at university off and on for almost 5 years, from when I started to when I finally left and dedicated myself to studying Ayurveda. And back then there was really only two schools, so I had to move. I grew up in Arizona, up in Flagstaff and Sedona, Arizona. And so I moved to California to study Ayurveda. And I've been living in California mostly ever since. It was supposed to only be a short trip. I was gonna go study and then come back home, but I haven't gone back. I visited. I visited home, but I haven't actually gone back home. I haven't moved back. But yeah, I studied Ayurveda, and on that path, I started to also study Jyotish, which is Vedic astrology. And so I've been practicing Jyotish and Ayurveda for the last 15 years. I was able to become a member of the National Ayurvedic Medical Association here in North America as a Ayurvedic doctor member. And so I work with all different types of people, but I specialize in clinical Ayurveda. And so a lot of times I work with people that they have illnesses that aren't well diagnosed. So that it's a syndrome, so autoimmune conditions and so forth. And Ayurveda is incredibly helpful for just focusing in on the pattern and working with that diet and lifestyle, herbs. And so I moved to California and I studied Ayurveda, started to practice Ayurveda. And in 2011, Mr. Davis ordained me to be a teacher to sort of represent the lineage. And but I didn't really I started teaching, meditation classes and informally back in 2005, but I didn't start teaching Kriya Yoga until really it was 2001 officially, right? Yeah.
So it was very early on. You started teaching basically.
Yeah, well, I wanted to, but I didn't have, I wasn't mature enough, really. But Roy gave me permission to start teaching meditation and teaching the philosophy of Kriya, and so I started doing that in 2005, 2004, 2005. Yeah.
And how were your beginnings? Because you said you didn't feel quite ready.
Yeah.
I think it was last time we talked. You said, you just start where you are. So
That's
now
right.
it's been 20 years you've been teaching Kriya Yoga. So maybe you can also share something about your mission now, because you started a kind of a new project, because it's
Yeah.
teaching Kriya Yoga new, or so to be, or to be the Kriya Yoga teachers.
Yeah.
So can you please share a little bit about living Kriya Yoga and about, those how you started and now how you feel you have evolved, or how it changed your life, or you? What kind of person were you 20 years ago? Can you see any differences?
Well, I'm just more myself, right? So much of the path of Kriya Yoga or any authentic spiritual path is just a process, a constant process of just becoming more of who you truly are, right? But yeah, but it was incredible. Like I like from the beginning, one of the first things that ever happened when I officially went out and spent time with Mr. Davis, it was the very first day of class. You get up early in the morning, you go and meditate for an hour and a half back then, and then he'd give a talk, and then you'd go off and do your own thing for a couple hours before you came back. So you be there at 6, meditate for an hour and a half, and just listen to him. And there was nothing more in the world that I wanted uh, than to be there and to learn Kriya. And leading up to it, I was a strict vegan. I was wearing white always. I felt really good. My ego felt really great about being spiritual, right?
I understand. Yeah.
And so I'm there, and I'm, doing kind of puffing up my chest, and the first thing that Roy said to the whole group, he said, "I see these young guys walking around. They think they know everything. They know nothing." It was to this effect, right? And everyone
Wow.
there is like in their 60s. So I'm the only. There was another young guy there. There's two of us actually, but there wasn't a lot of young guys there, right? And
So
so,
he was very honest, wasn't he?
very,
To go like straight to the point, not
yeah,
being, not avoiding being hurtful in this case, because he exactly knew why he was saying that. And
100%.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and right away I wanted attention. I thought he would see me, and he would come up. He would just know, and he'd come up and be like, "My disciple, you're finally here." Like I had this, and he wouldn't even look at me. It was like I must have really been kind of, overzealous, as they say. Um, and it was hard the first few days. I'd never been in silence. I never had been away from distraction. So a lot was coming up for me. And I felt like I've spent all this time trying to get here and looking forward to this. And I don't think he even likes me. And if I had a car, or if I would have probably left, but I didn't even have a vehicle. This is before cell phones were readily available. And plus, even out there at the center in the northern mountains of Georgia, there was no cell service. And so I made the commitment to myself. I said, well, I'm just going to try to get as much from this as I can. So I'm like, I don't need the approval. I just kind of let that go and just thought, well, I'm just going to get as much from this experience as I can. And it was almost immediately after I switched gears in that way internally that he came up to me and put his hand on my shoulder and, "Hi, where are you from?" And so that was when we really started to uh, create that relationship, right? But in the beginning, it was just spirituality was a little bit, it was authentic, my desire for truth and to know God and to know Kriya and to learn. I mean, it was just like a magnet. There was nothing else more important. But on an ego level, I was also like, like just doing something that felt good and
You're better than others, and
I didn't
and
feel,
so on.
luckily
No?
I didn't feel too much that way, but I would lecture people often about
Mm-hmm.
vegetarianism, so I had no problem like, telling people what to eat and not to eat. My family and friends had so much patience for me, right? But I was escaping a little bit. I was using the spiritual path and I didn't know it at the time, obviously, but it made me feel good about my mind, body, personality in a way. And I wasn't really aware of the discipline or the deeper work that I would have to do on myself. I'd have to confront certain ideas, certain patterns, certain behaviors, and that it wouldn't always feel good. And a matter of fact, sometimes things would come up that didn't feel good at all, right? And part of the process was being comfortable and relaxed enough to examine, to work through, and to move forward or past those obstacles. And so I think that was in the very beginning where I grew the most was learning that it wasn't a path of escapism. It wasn't a path of fantasy, right? And to really get somewhere with it was to face face the challenges. You know, sometimes you have to go through and look at things and grow from situations or thoughts or behaviors that that are challenging. And that's the beauty of Kriya Yoga or any authentic spiritual path, is it gives you the tools to do so. If you're willing to get out of the fantasy or the escapism.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Sometimes I imagine when Roy reacted this way. Unfortunately, I didn't meet him, but I can imagine like when you were there in 2000 for the first time, or 1999.
Yeah.
So then I imagine that he had been doing that maybe for 40 years, probably. Is it correct?
Yes, that's
And
correct.
if I imagine how many different types of spiritual egos or personalities he probably had met, so he probably exactly knew what he was doing when he said that note, because
100%.
he had also not just from his teaching years, but also from the community he started for Yogananda, this Center for Spiritual Awareness. But no, he moved him some other place, right, from
Yeah.
SRF to be independent and start a little community some other place. But that
Yeah.
was still under SRF, but it was just
It,
different
it
time.
was. Yeah,
And then
Roy was he was sent to Phoenix, Arizona after about 3-4 months of discipleship training. So when we got there, he was there for 3-4 months, and then he was stationed, if you will, as a monk at a satellite center in Phoenix, Arizona. And he was there with a couple of other monks at first, and then after a while, he was there alone by himself.
mm-hmm. And did you because you had been with him for many years, or you were with him for many years, like 19 years,
Yeah.
you spent the time with him very intensely, probably because you were his disciple.
Yeah.
So did you observe him behave differently to different people? What were his ways with his disciples? Was he different with everyone, or was he stricter with this one and a little bit softer with another person? What was he like as a teacher?
Yeah, well, it's that's the thing. And so one of the things that Roy would often share, as he spoke or as he taught, and also as he wrote, he would talk about when we are spiritually awake, that a person starts to live spontaneously, right? And that always confused me, because he would say have a regular schedule and meditate in a regular schedule and order your life, have your life in order, and this kind of thing. And then he would be talking about this, how when we become awake, we start to live spontaneously. And I won't go into too much about that, but I could see that as far as how he would work with people, his relationship with individuals, and how he would respond or how he would be with them was very spontaneous to what was needed at the time, right? So he was very pragmatic, very practical, incredibly strong, solid, right? He was so very normal in a lot of ways. When he would teach in public, he would be wearing a suit and a tie, right? Yogananda told him that he needed to do that. It was part of Roy's personality too. He liked to look nice, but Yogananda told him that he had to shine the backs of his shoes, right? So even monks back then, they would wear suit and tie, and then they'd have the robes, right? And that's how Yogananda would dress. So he was very normal and very practical, and then very professional in public. But one-on-one, he was just you'd have jeans on and just a t-shirt, and he was very relaxed and calm, and just like a normal, regular person. But to your point, to some people, he was more of like this loving papa, and to some people, he was more strict. From my experience, the first 11 years with him, he was more strict. When I read the stories, like especially in the autobiography of a yogi, Yogananda's reflection of how Sri Yukteswar was with him. He's strict and austere, sometimes hard. Roy was always he was always super kind and sweet and so helpful to me. But in the first part of my discipleship, he had that kind of energy. It was strict. He was like, if my hair was messed up, he would point it out. If I was eating too much, he'd point it out. Like he'd be serving food and go, would you like another helping? And I'd say yes. And he'd go, mm-mm. Like trying to teach me to not overeat, overdo things, all these little things. But then he became more of like a best friend. So he went from that kind of strict like coach, teacher, spiritual friend to like a best friend.
Mm-hmm. Was there any shift, a particular moment, for example, in yourself that you also were able to discern some kind of different attitude of yours, where he suddenly changed from this kind of sternness into the friend kind of behavior, or more friendly-like behavior?
Yeah, I think it was just a part of that growth process or maturity, if you will. It was like I got the feeling, and I mean this. I'm going to be careful the way I say it because always looked up to him, and always saw him as my teacher, right? But at a certain point, I had this feeling of like close friendship, and that we were able to relate to each other in a way that it's hard to find people that can relate to you. And so he could relate to me and I could relate to him in a way in the shared experience. And I'm getting kind of teary-eyed talking about it. I have so much gratitude and love for him, but it became more of like the sharing, if you will.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
So if we now go forward in time till today,
Mm-hmm.
so you started the Living Kriya Yoga.
That's
Would
right.
you
Yeah.
share a little bit about your mission now and why you started? Because you are also in the Kriya Yoga Alliance, the same like Ryan Kurczak and Shalene, who also talked to me, or we also shared a very nice podcast together that the listeners are going to see too. So, and you are another teacher of the Kriya Yoga Alliance, and still you started Living Kriya Yoga.
Yep.
Can you please tell us a little bit about why you started this project or this new school?
Yeah, absolutely. So Living Kriya Yoga was founded earlier this year by myself and my partner Shalene Tetro, who's also a minister, a teacher of Kriya Yoga. And I guess the easiest way to answer the question is in what Roy once wrote. He said, a disciple never has to ask what their purpose is, because their purpose is the same as their teacher's, right? And I think that's very true. Like if you would ask if I could be like just the clearest answer I could give is if somebody said, "Why are you doing this?" I would say, "What else could I do?" What else at this point in my life? What else could I do? Kind of as a joke, but also to me, there's nothing else more important. The lineage itself, if we really look at it, to continue the lineage is to share what was given, right? So when I met Roy, he never charged. He was always donation, and he never even had a suggested donation. As a matter of fact, one time I made a donation of $200. I stayed out there for 3 weeks, and that's all I had, 200. And I get home from the retreat, he sent back $100, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so in his story is he was 17 and he hitchhiked across the country and used all the money he had to get to the self-realization fellowship. in 1949. He had hitchhiked from Florida all the way to Los Angeles. And he just showed up on the doorstep, knock, knock. And they just brought him in. They fed him. He met Yogananda right away. He was accepted. So with Kriya Yoga and of course other authentic spiritual traditions, this information, this guidance, the support is given. And it is our job to pass it forward and to give it to others in the best way that we can, right? And so living Kriya Yoga, that's our mission. And so we began officially teaching this January, and that's our first course is just to help prepare people for the commitment of initiation, if that's what they choose. But just looking at like diet and lifestyle and how to meditate and how to create how to really kind of get with it, to build a little bit of a foundation. And as we'll talk about, how to strengthen your nervous system and how to order how to put your life in a certain order, so that you can really benefit from the practices. Our long-term mission, other than just teaching Kriya to really support people, is to help develop future Kriya Yoga teachers. Kriya Yoga is unique, and I'm not saying of course, I think it's very special, but it is very unique. But there are other authentic spiritual traditions. That's true. But Kriya Yoga, I feel, or I know that it has a very special role to play in today's changing world. And having well-trained, authentic, grounded, practical, real yoga teachers to help support others grow their, to be healthier, happier, but to help support their awakening process. I feel very passionate about that as well. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So your living Kriya Yoga is basically was created for two purposes. One was to initiate regular yogis and yoginis into Kriya Yoga, and then also the second task is to produce, so to say, more Kriya Yoga teachers, so that the teachings can be spread around the globe, or at least in your area.
Yeah, in communities, and we're just within families, within schools, wherever it can be accepted. And the thing about it too is that part of our work is, some people are attracted to the tradition and to the lineage itself, but for some people, and for good reason, the idea of having a spiritual teacher or gurus and all this stuff, they don't want any of that. They've heard the stories, they know all the hard things that can happen in those situations. So they're not really attracted to that, but they really are attracted to the science. And when we're looking at Kriya Yoga, meditation, Ayurvedic lifestyle guide, these are all, it's almost like it's a manual of like what this is, where we are, and how to live. And so our mission too is to share these teachings and give guidance around these teachings that can benefit anyone. Some people might not they might not feel on a conscious level like they're on an awakening path. And we can say that everyone is. But some people might not feel like they are, but they might feel, hey, I might benefit. I might feel more self-empowered, or I might feel more healthier physically, mentally, emotionally by meditating or learning a little bit about Ayurveda. And so our mission is to share the information freely that it can help, that hopefully can benefit others.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Very good. So now we can really flow slowly into our today's topic, which is the impact of meditation on the nervous system. Because what strikes me is that sometimes I hear a lot of Kriya Yoga teachers who are actually neuroscientists. So they are from the field of science.
Yeah.
And there are many of them are actually in Ananda organization or SRF, and they lecture about these topics. They really, there's a lot of research how meditation or Kriya Yoga specifically impact the brain, the neural pathways, the areas of the brain, and how. So I would like us to delve deeper about into this topic now. So I've always read that meditation in general and Kriya Yoga are refining the nervous system. So I would like to ask you what it actually means to refine
Yeah.
a nervous system. How can an everyday person imagine this process? What does it mean physically
Yeah.
within the brain?
Yeah. Well, to refine something is to purify it, or to remove things that are blocking, obscuring, that are creating some type of blockage. In Ayurveda, we have this term called ama, which kind of we can loosely define for the conversation as a toxin, right? But it's something that is in the way, right? And so to refine our nervous system on a physiological level is to truly strengthen it, is to strengthen our nervous system. And in today's world, especially in the United States, I'm thinking about, as I'm saying this, just kind of the current climate in the United States, especially from COVID to now. There's been a real intensification of stress, right? Of stress. And so our nervous system is incredible. Our nervous system is amazing. On one side, so we can think of the nervous system as two sides, right? One side is about rest and digest. And so when we are calm, we can digest our food. When we are calm and relaxed, we're naturally breathing deeper. When we're calm and relaxed, we can digest the experience of life, right? So we need to be in a calm, relaxed place to learn, to receive, to be open, to solve the problems that we have in our life, right? But the issue, the problem that most people face is that the other side of the nervous system, which is also just amazing, is all adaptive, right? So we have this response, this nervous system response that allows us to run from a tiger if it's chasing us, right? So that's the fight or flight response. And when we're in that fight or flight, it gives us a lot for a period of time. It can give us a lot of focus, but it's only the adaptive response, that fight or flight, is designed to adapt to circumstances that need a high amount of focus and energy, ideally for short periods of time. Right. So when we get stressed, or if something is threatening us physically or emotionally, we get all this adrenaline and these hormones like cortisol, and it gives us all this energy and focus. But what happens when we are in that state is that the blood in that flows to our digestive system, for example. I mean, there's so many things, but one of the most important ways to think about it is that when we are in a fight or flight or a stress response, the blood that's circulating in our digestive system is sent to our organs. The stomach acids, like for example, the hydrochloric acid that is produced by the parietal cells of the stomach, stops producing it as much, right? So when we are in this stress response, we're not in a rest and digest. We're in a fight or flight kind of response. And when we are here, we are unable to fully digest the experience of life. It's not a place of relaxation. It's not a place of eating food and digesting food. And because of media, because of political views, because of so many different reasons, And by the way, what I'm talking about here is also used by people trying to sell products, right? So if you're on social media or if you're watching TV, or certain people have these emotional appeals, they're using your fight or flight response. They put you into a place of stress and fear so they can kind of manipulate you, right? But most people are, or a lot of people are, just constantly in this fight or flight. And then if you add in growing up in a home that maybe there was yelling in the home, or maybe there was violence, or a person experienced trauma growing up, right? That is a major stress response. And so our nervous systems can easily get clicked into or upregulated into a place where we're just constantly in this stress response. And so people are running from one thing to the next, and there's so much coming at them through their senses and going into their mind, and they have relationship problems, and they have symptoms in their body, and there's so much happening all at once. And when we meditate, right, when we're able to just breathe, even before we even meditate, if we can just take a deep breath, it starts to put us into that rest and digest state. And so one of the most important, I think, or helpful ideas, or something that's just as far as looking at why would someone learn to meditate, or why would they learn these practices? It's to ask yourself, are you in this constant process of dealing with stress, with work and kids and bills, and there's so much happening. Do you feel like you're being pulled around by all of this stuff? And do you feel like you have time for yourself? Do you have time to just sit and be with you? And meditation is not a time that we work through our problems, but if we can breathe deeply and get out of that fight or flight and strengthen our vagus nervous system, and we can talk more about that in a second, but if we can get out of that fight or flight and relax, then we can breathe, meditate, and something amazing happens after. If we need to figure out an issue with our relationship, or we need to figure out something with our career, or where do I want to live, or what do I want to eat for dinner tonight, all of these choices. It's in that response where we're in that rest and digest that we can have clarity so that we can make really good decisions in life. The other part, and I don't mean to go on and on, but it's just that when most people, or a lot of people, are in this constant fight or flight, and some even from childhood, their nervous system is affecting their hormones of their body. And so it literally lowers their immune system. It causes chronic inflammation within the tissues of the body and the brain. So people are inflamed, their immune system has dropped, and it starts to age people prematurely. And so you can think of a time when you went through something really hard, or somebody that went through divorce, or they went through something difficult. You can see they aged quickly. Maybe they went through something for a couple of years, and they come out the other side of that experience, hopefully. You can see how it affected their bodies, right? So one of the things that we can see as far as refining our nervous system, it is just strengthening our ability to get out of that stress response. And being in that rest and digest, well, now our systems are able to regulate their self, so that our hormones are functioning properly, so that we have better immune systems, right? So that we like people that meditate, and this is shown in physiological scans, the more blood flow someone has to their prefrontal lobes, heart disease goes down, right, as a whole. The less cortisol someone has, which is a stress hormone. So if we're stressed, we're releasing all this cortisol. It affects our heart long term. It affects our brain and our heart. And so a lot of cardiovascular disease is caused by excessive cortisol. And so these studies show that as we meditate, or as we get into these deeper states of relaxation, sometimes, again, just by breathing, right, just by using our breath, it can lower heart disease and increase what is known as heart rate variability. Do you know that term?
Heart rate, yes, I do.
Yeah. And so it's one of the most important markers to see how we are recovering from stressful experiences, or looking at how our sympathetic nervous response, that rest and digest or flight or fight, is working. Because if it's clicked in one direction too far, which again is often the case with just being in constant stress, then our heart rate variability drops, right? And so we're not recovering, and we're in constant stress. We're not actually getting deep sleep, right? And our hormones start to get thrown off, and all of these kind of things. I think I'm going on and on here, but is this making sense?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
Yes, that's and also there are many researches, they try to do research on meditation also, like Stanford University, they write papers on it. And
Yeah.
also like how amygdala, the emotional alarm center in the brain, actually shrinks
Yeah.
and decreases activity in more so in the brain of the meditators. So that can impacts your behavior. That's what
Absolutely.
Yogananda said 100 years ago already, without any of these researches being done. So he said it impacts your behavior
Yeah.
and your emotional reaction. And today there is actually research to prove that you become less reactive.
That's right.
And it's also from my experience. Also, it's not just about meditation, but also you have the next 23 hours of the day, how
Yeah.
and what you do in those 23 hours of the day, or 22 in some cases when people meditate longer. That's of extreme importance.
That's right.
So, because then, you can get up and jump up from the meditation, and then everything switches on again, and you just go through it. And that's why Roy and not just Roy, but also in other traditions, as you mentioned, there can be a big emphasis on living a stable life, because you need
Yeah.
to kind of anchor the meditative experience into your everyday life. Because if you don't, it's just wasted time. And then I think it was in Ryan's or Roy's book, and Ryan's too, Ryan Kurczak's books, that if you don't anchor it into your life, that's why there are so many people who meditate all their life and there is no change at all,
That's right.
because uh, that can be the escape, just to
Yeah.
sit for 1 hour. That's also okay. There is no judgment about this, depending on what what's the goal of the person. But some people really do long for real deep peace, and they sometimes leave meditation or the spiritual path because there are no results. And from my own experience also, it's because it's just you get up and everything is the same. So
Yeah.
that's why it's extremely important. But there is a lot of evidence to support that.
Yeah. I wonder, because I've had the experience. So in 2000, sorry, in 2000 and sorry, 2021, after Mr. Davis, his Mahasamadhi, after he left his body, there was a person that took over for the Center for Spiritual Awareness, a good friend of mine, Ron Lindon. But he quickly came down with an illness and he passed away. And so then I had the honor and the responsibility to take over. So I went out there and took on the role as the head spiritual minister there, leading retreats and so forth. And I met a lot of people that had been with Mr. Davis, sometimes 40, 50 years. And I've known him for a long time, and they've been on the path for a long time. But they had some of them had um, that have that question: why haven't they experienced deeper um, results? And what I came to realize is that there's two things. One, they weren't really meditating deeply. They were just getting into a place that made them feel slightly better, but they weren't actually dropping into meditation. And the other thing was, outside of meditation, they were just waiting for something to happen. They were just kind of waiting for something to happen. And something can happen, but like you were saying, when we're not meditating, meditation gives us an amazing, if we really drop in, even just for a moment, it doesn't have to be that long. We can have the experience of just being clear. When the wave-like movements of the mind settle, and then we can just be in this clear state of pure being, right? And then when we stop meditating, then we go on with our day, and something inevitably is going to come up that disturbs our peace, right? Thought, emotion, something, it's old memory or whatever, something comes into the mind, the field of the mind, and it disturbs our peace. And that's where a lot of our work is done. It is to observe what comes in, to see it, and then to do whatever work that is necessary around that thing. And most of maybe it's something we can fix in our outer life, but so much of it is just how our consciousness is perceiving the thing. And we can stop it. We can work with it at that level. And meditation just gives us the ability. It's one of the most important things that it does. It gives us the ability outside of meditation to clearly see what enters into the field of the mind that affects us in a certain way, and to do the work around it. I think that one of the most powerful teachings of yoga that should be taught in schools to children is that the nature of being a person, but it's the nature of consciousness in connection with having a mind. So there's consciousness, and then there's our mind. So consciousness just has when it's connected with cognition, with the buddhi, with the mind, it identifies with what it sees. So what that means is that we'll often, there's a part of us that whatever comes into the mind, we think that's me, right? So if we're having a hard experience or a stressful experience, I'm having a hard experience. I'm having a stressful experience. That thing in the past happened to me, right? Meditation gives us this little bit of objectivity, and we've had this experience of being in a peaceful state. So when these things come in, we go, is that me? Right? Am I the body? Am I the mind? Am I all this karma? Right? And meditation can give us this viewpoint of going, well, these things are affecting this part of me, but the true me, if I'm really just watching and being aware, giving it time to really look for it, there's a part of me that's just perceiving, right? There's a part of me that's just awake and aware. It has no wants, no desires. It's ageless, right? It's the same as being little. I'm 45, so I can't say I don't know what it's going to be like when I'm 46. No, I can. I think it's changeless, but it's always been the same. There's just this observer or this I that is aware. And so after meditation, as we strengthen our nervous system so that we're not as reactive, because that's one of the most important things with meditation, is it strengthens our nervous system so that things that are activating emotionally, stress, with emotions or stress, or how stress affects our emotions, is that we're not as reactive. And then with the experience of meditation, it allows us to go, is this me? So we don't have to always, we have a choice. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. We have a choice not to identify with everything we think, right? And I think that would be a good reminder for a good lesson for someone growing up as a teenager. It's like, hey, you're not everything. Everything that comes into your mind isn't necessarily, you don't have to identify with it. Does that make sense?
Yes, that makes
Yeah.
sense, and that's a very good point actually, because I heard a psychiatrist talking about it, an American psychiatrist, psychiatrist is correct pronunciation.
Yeah, you got
Sorry.
it.
And she said that meditation impacts also the default mode network in the brain, which is connected to self-referential thoughts
Mm.
So it impacts it in a way, like it probably decreases the activity also. So self-referentiate means like, who am I? What is my past? What is my future? What is my connection relation to this person, that? And if you don't have anything to do, the brain or the mind, we can say, actually sends you the thoughts like remembering, or what about the future, worries. And all the time, when there's an empty space, it sends you these referential thoughts. It's quite amazing. And then,
Oh, that's
so
interesting.
what meditation can do, that's what I connected. I don't know if it's true, but it impacts the center so that there is not so much of the I, or probably the empty spaces, when they are recognized, can be just observed and understood. Okay, what the brain does now, it starts sending me the memories, but this is not actually me. It is its job actually. When there is nothing going on, it sends me something. So that can be also helpful, because she said it really does impact this kind of center in the brain.
Yeah.
And I also didn't know that
Yeah,
you
it's
you have
amazing.
these spaces, that there is when meditation, when we meditate, or that these spaces can uh, stay empty if we can
Yeah,
recognize, okay, this is just the brain's job to send me something now, but I don't need to. There is no problem now.
absolutely. And then even if it does, I don't have to necessarily identify with it, right? So much of what we're thinking, feeling, or doing is just the kind of a circuit. It's like a loop, And
Yes.
so
Yeah.
I think one of the most helpful things with Kriya Yoga is to have the ability to recognize that, and then to choose if you want to let that keep going or not.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And in your practice, I'm sure you've had many people who were um, trying to deal with depressions or with serious mental issues. Uh, as an Ayurvedic doctor, did you ever recommend meditation as a cure? And what were the results? What were the impact? Can you give us an example of a case that really it helped the person in what way?
Absolutely. Yeah, there was someone that worked really closely with, I guess it was probably about 10 years ago. And the first thing is when we're looking at Ayurveda, it is the sister science to yoga. And within Ayurveda, the primordial or the root cause of physical or mental illness is our it is said that it is forgetting. It's our forgetfulness of our true nature, right? It's our forgetfulness of our true nature. So when we are working with any illness, so this person I'm thinking about had that autoimmune disease, they had chronic fatigue, they were obese, and they suffered with both anxiety and depression. And they were on all kinds of different medications. And they had also seen all these different, like, functional medicine doctor. They had a chiropractor. They had they were just looking for help in all these places. But this person comes, they're just like, they're taking these herbs and these supplements and all of this kind of stuff. And back then, I wanted to take all that stuff away and just give some Ayurvedic herbs. But I knew that that wouldn't be helpful at the time. So to your question, we started to focus on dinacharya, which is when we're talking about establishing healthy routines. That's all that dinacharya is. It's trying to live in rhythm with nature that is supportive for your biorhythms. So we started working with getting up early in the morning, getting up early and getting sunlight, and starting with a very simple meditation practice. And long story short, I think that, well, I'll share this first, is that she had a very complex, like on paper, when you look at all of the medical diagnoses, all of her symptoms, everything that she was on, and you look at her lifestyle and her history, there's trauma, there's all this stuff. It's so complex. And Ayurveda is beautiful in that there's that there's one simple lesson of Ayurveda or lesson, we'll say that, is that like increases like. So the first thing is like increases like, and opposites balance. So simple way of thinking about it is if you're feeling cold and you go out into the cold, you're going to feel more cold. Like increases like. But if you're feeling cold and you go into a warm room, opposites balance, right? And so when we're looking at this case, it's complex. And instead of adding more complexity to it, the opposite of a complex situation is simplicity. The opposite of all of this stuff going on, all of these things. So my job was to help simplify her lifestyle and to bring in meditation. It was wild. Long story, the short end of it is that within 5-6 months, like she was 90% better, right?
Mm.
Some of the symptoms with the chronic fatigue that she'd been experiencing for over 16 years had gone away. And she had the kind of chronic fatigue that also looked like fibromyalgia. There was all these trigger points. So like her body was in extreme pain. So just through meditation and a little bit of diet or a little bit of lifestyle, and we worked a little bit on diet, but it was just really working on repatterning. There we go, words. We were working with getting her biorhythms back in order by going to bed at a normal or at a decent time, waking up early enough, getting that sunlight, and simply working with breath and meditation. She had profound results, so much so that at first I wondered, like, is this real? I was really blown away by how quickly she got better. And so that's
Can I
one
ask,
example. Yeah.
sorry, Ryan, to interrupt, how long was her meditation in the morning, for example?
Well, we started off just with 2 minutes, right? Yeah.
Mm.
And then so we'd increase slowly over time, right? Yeah. Yeah.
And so then she was off the medication at the very end of her
Absolutely.
cure.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, to get off all the so right away, a lot of medications dropped away within 5-6 months. Now, but she was on some psychotropic medications for anxiety and depression, right? That took about 2 years. And the reason for that was one, she felt like she needed them. But then when she felt like she didn't, she was, these were drugs that were really important to go slowly off of. And I'm not picking on all medications. I think medications can sometimes be very helpful. But we need to be very careful with all medications, do our own research. We have to become informed, and we have to understand that psychotropic medications, especially for anxiety, can be incredibly addictive and easy to get on and not easy to get off. But unfortunately, a lot of doctors, at least here in the United States, they don't have the training, or they don't realize how hard these drugs are on their nervous system. And so they'll just take someone off of it. Like, oh, that didn't work. All right, we're going to try something else. But they've been on it. So then all of a sudden they go through all kinds of physical and mental challenges just because they're detoxing off of that medication. And so the ones that she was on were very strong. So we had to go slow with that. Yeah.
That's very interesting, Ryan. So, and have you got more examples of that sort? Not just this lady,
Oh,
as
yeah.
far as not just, for example, mentally, but also toward that physical cure, that it impacted the physical health more so than the mental.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, so you're asking for an example of
Yes,
more physical than mental?
yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, for her, it might have, I think a lot of our illnesses, and it might have been true for her, but it's true for so many people. Going back to what we were talking about before, is we identify with what comes into our mind, right? And unresolved traumas plus chronic stress just break down the body, right? But if we can address our mindset, you can imagine, and someone that meditates regularly, or someone that is completely dedicated to their awakening path or Kriya Yoga, it's almost like you end up living in a way, and there's normal ups and downs, and you deal with things, but you almost live in a way where it's like people go, I want to go on vacation, so they think, I want to go be on a beach in Kauai or Fiji or something. Well, imagine if you felt that way now, with your work and with everything you're doing, everything you're going through. But if you developed a mindset where you felt like you were in this beautiful tropical place where everything felt good, right? So we can't choose our emotions. We have to go through what we go through, but we can choose our attitudes. And so we can take on this attitude of, we can change our mindset. And so much of Ayurveda is that it's changing our mindset. And as we change our mindset, it changes our stress levels, and it allows us to start unraveling some of the patterns. So a mindset causes us to eat a certain way, right? So our attitudes in life based on our past create certain behaviors, and that sets a certain pattern, and this pattern starts to manifest within the body, right? And so one person this was one of the very first people that I ever got to work with on a deeper level. I was just a new graduate, and this person had chronic migraines, debilitating chronic migraines. And she'd had them, I want to say like 20 years. It was something like that, long. She'd had them for so long. And on top of that, she had chronic constipation, right? So that kind of came hand in hand with the migraines. She also had such bad constipation that she would have to take a purgative, a herb called senna, right, every day just to go to the bathroom. So she was addicted to the senna. Yeah, and so she was on all these medications and this kind of stuff. And when I first started seeing her, nothing was really working. Right. So like tried this, I tried that, I tried this, I tried that. And the way I knew her, well, I won't go into all that, but let's say there was a family member that I knew that was not happy with me because the patient wasn't getting better. She wasn't seeing the relief. Long story short, I suggested that she do something called panchakarma. Do you know what that is?
Yes.
Yeah.
Full body cleansing, Ayurvedic cleansing.
Yeah, it's a phenomenal process, and to do it properly, it takes a lot of time. And so some people don't have the time for it. And then when you go to a center here in the United States, especially, it can be very expensive. There are good places in India, but to travel there, and so that can be expensive too. But she could afford it, so I was hesitant to recommend it at first, but I did. I recommended it, and I designed this 14-day panchakarma. So she started at home with her diet and herbs, and then she came and did the panchakarma. And a part of her treatment was doing something called a heart basti. So she's on diet, she's on herbs, and she's getting these body therapies, which is a lot of lymphatic massage with oil, Sweden or steam tents like a sauna. But this heart basti, after 2 hours of body therapies every day, they would build this dough dam. So they use this special type of dough, they put it over the heart, and they pour this warm fluid into that it's like this circular dam, basically. It's like it holds all that fluid. And the fluid was medicated oils, milk, and rose. So there's all this rose in there, and these very special Ayurvedic oils and milk. And it would just sit there, right? And until it gets a little bit cold. So it's not even on there very long. And around day 3 or 4, she had uh, things come up emotionally, right? So things from her past that she had not thought about in years. Some of it she didn't remember that had happened. She hadn't thought about it. Once it came up, it was like she did remember that it had happened. But it just created this space where these old things, kind of like I call it Gadanta or karmic knot, this hard stuff that was possibly, and I think it was the root cause of her illness, of what she was going through. Because at that panchakarma, halfway through it, her migraines went away. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And it was almost like, again, I'd worked with her for weeks and weeks in all these different ways, but here we're just creating this retreat-like environment, doing all of this body work and other things, but just doing this deep body work. And she's just sitting there on the table with this heart basti, and this information comes up and she just releases it. She was journaling, and there was some crying and things like this after the therapy. It was a lot, but it was a relief. It was a release. Right. And so I'll never forget that, because one part, it was amazing to witness and to be a part of, but two, just how like nothing was working at first, partly because I was so new and didn't really, I wasn't quite qualified to be working on a condition that at that level at that time. I didn't know it then. I look back and go, what was I thinking? But also that panchakarma was so helpful for her. So I'm really grateful to have had that experience with her and to see that type of transformation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And did meditation also come into place there,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
just yeah?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. A part of every day was meditation in the morning, meditation in the evening. We also did sound therapy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you also have some friends who are, for example, scientists? I know you have a co-teacher, Stella Woodke, also Roy's disciple, I
Mm-hmm.
guess. Has she shared something on similar notes with you, because she does biofeedback?
Yeah, absolutely. So we've talked a little bit. We haven't talked a lot about the science behind what he does, but I've been lucky enough to spend some time with him to get his perspective, and it is quite amazing. Yeah, the Ayurvedic college that I went to and taught at, our strength was, and it still is. I imagine I haven't been out there for a few years, but the curriculum is the combination for the clinical or doctor level Ayurveda is to go deep into the science of anatomy and physiology, and to understand Ayurveda from that view, and to understand anatomy and science. So like they're interchangeable, right? Ayurveda works with both. And so we attracted a lot of doctors. So as a new teacher, or even an experienced teacher, you can imagine teaching anatomy, physiology, and disease processes from an allopathic or Western perspective. It was a little bit intimidating because you're teaching to doctors in that field. Yeah, I have many friends that are nurses or doctors, and I've been very glad. I've been very happy and lucky to have that. Yeah.
And had Roy ever not experienced, explored this field of neuroscience, for example? Had anyone tested him on some kind of
Yeah.
brain scan?
Yeah. Well, I know that like we were talking about Marty Wukti. I know Roy, they did some work with the brain scans and all that kind of stuff with him. And I know Roy recommended certain people to do that work as well. Yeah, the biofeedback.
And what were his results? Did you get any information, if it's not a secret? Was his brain? What was the difference in his brain and a person who doesn't meditate or who's not a spiritual teacher? Have you seen, or what did they tell
Well,
him
when
after?
they hooked all the machines up to his head,
Uh-huh.
and they were able to look at the screen, right? The computer screen, and it just showed a ball of glowing light. No, I'm just kidding.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just joking. Yeah, no, you'll have to, you'll have to ask Marty Mukti, because I remember hearing that it was remarkable, but I don't
Mm-hmm.
remember the
Okay.
details of why it was remarkable or special. But I can tell you that when the SPEC scans, or a lot of the research is done mostly on Buddhists, right? So long time Tibetan Buddhists, and they'll hook them up, and there's a lot that they can see. But the thing that maybe is what sticks out to me is that long-term meditators have increased blood flow to their prefrontal lobes, right? And then of course, the other thing that's amazing is that there is a remarkable amount of more gray matter. So the brain itself is larger. And so it's a larger, healthier brain with better circulation, especially to the prefrontal lobes. And
Mm-hmm.
so the prefrontal lobe is responsible for so much, but it is our ability to make decisions, to direct ourself, right? And so much of our patterns that we have to deal with in life is being able to direct ourselves towards something or away from something, right? And so the more we meditate and place our awareness in our higher brain centers, it actually it creates a physiological change within the brain and the nervous system that allows us to be more directed. And, just as simple as like going, well, I'm not going to eat that sugar, right? So like you wake up, eat, here we just celebrated Thanksgiving, and a lot of people overate, right? And the problem is once you go into that sugar, the next day you want it, right?
Yeah.
And so if someone has gone through a lot of stress, for example, their ability to say, I'm not going to eat that is low. They have high cortisol. Maybe they've had high cortisol for a long time. And you mentioned earlier that it actually has a negative effect. This hormone has a negative effect on the brain. It actually shrinks the brain, but it decreases blood flow to the prefrontal lobe, right? So by increasing that blood flow to our higher brain centers gives us the ability to say yes to things we should say yes to, like getting up and meditating in the morning and not going, oh, I'm just laying in bed, right? It's like I get up and I'm going to do it, right? And so it gives us that ability, but it also gives us the ability to say no. No, I'm not, like we set a healthy boundary in our life. We set it with others, or we set it with ourselves, right? Having more blood flow here allows us to stay steadfast and go, that's not for me. That's not supportive for me. And so it helps us do what we should do and to avoid the things that we shouldn't. Yeah.
Yes, that's exactly what the psychiatrist said too. She said that meditation, when the focus is in the prefrontal cortex, it supports the conscious decision making,
Yeah.
and that we are less reactive too, and less under the impact of impulses. So if you want to do something consciously, you just go and do it, and
Yeah.
then you just disregard these little impulses that are not really beneficial. They feel good, but they really
Yeah.
don't do you good.
Right. Right. Oh, there's a study, and if I remember, or if I forget, you'll remind me to send you. Um, I think the study was well done. It was in India at a university, And we were talking earlier about refining the nervous system. And so one of the greatest effects of asana, or physical practice of yoga, doing the postures, or breathing, doing pranayama, or just deep breathing, going into meditation, all of these things, it helps us drop into that digest and rest, getting out of that stress response, right? We were talking about earlier. But there's a part of our nervous system, the vagus nervous system, which runs from our brain all the way down through our ear, through our neck, down to our heart, all the way through our gut, into our small intestine. And the stronger this nervous system, the vagus nervous system is, right? So it has a lot of different roles, and it's very complex, but I'm simplifying it. If the response is strengthened, then things that are stressful don't have as much of an impact. And it allows us to drop out of that fight or flight response quicker. So we can think of people that are just constantly in the stress response. Well, we could say that they're possibly that vagus nerve is weak, right? It's not as responsive. It's not working as well. And so doing all our practices strengthens this response. But the thing that I wanted to share with you with the study was looking at oming, right? So just the practice of sitting and oming, and doing it out loud, and really focusing on the vibrational sound of the ah. So doing that. And at the end, the like you're almost humming, at the end of it. It stimulates the vagus nerve. So we have part of it up in our nose, up in this part of our head, but also down in and around our lungs and our stomach area. So just by creating this vibrational frequency as we're oming, it triggers and strengthens that vagus nervous system response, right?
Oh, that's
So
interesting.
if somebody can't
Yeah.
meditate, start with oming. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And if
that
somebody
was
is
done in
stressed, it will
India.
just drop them out of it.
Yeah. And you said that was done in India, this kind of research, this paper.
Well, this study alone, but there's a lot of studies on this, but they're not necessarily oming, they're humming. And so by humming, it releases nitric oxide, which has all these beneficial effects on blood flow and circulation. But the real focus is in on how it is strengthening or refining the nervous system and getting out of that stress response. Right. So it increases heart rate variability and helps balance the left and right brain hemisphere. Right. So we didn't go into all that, but yeah, just oming itself and really focusing in on the vibration drops us out of being reactive and in that fight or freeze state, so that we can just sort of be free from that stress.
Oh, that's very interesting. So that was very interesting, a very good point too. And before we conclude, Ryan, is there something you would like to add or you would like to say
Well, I
before we
wanted to,
finish?
I was talking on, and I just wanted to ask you how meditation or these practices have supported you or helped you.
I will try to make it short because I started meditating when I was 19.
Yeah.
20, and I went right in, and I also, like you, I wanted to become a nun. I wanted to be someplace on my own and meditate. I was meditating 3 times a day, and I was very much into Ramana Maharishi and Czech mystics at the time, which was Eduard Tomáš, Mila Tomášová. So I got inspired. They were great masters living. They were a couple, very highly evolved beings. They died 2001. And so I was following their meditation, but then I realized that I don't know how to live it. I don't know how to live a truthful life. I wanted to be enlightened immediately, but in my case, partly it was a desire for God, for truth, but at the same time, escapism. I didn't want to be here, to be honest. So I was looking for ways, and like you also, there was a lot of spiritual ego involved in different aspects of myself. But the most important thing that was that I didn't know how to live it. And so I prayed then, I would like to meet a teacher or somebody who would help me how to live the truth. I don't know how to be in the world. And then after just a couple of weeks, maybe, I met my teacher then, my spiritual teacher. And he wasn't into meditation, but he was into life. He was very big into life, and he was trying to beat the hell out of me as far as meditation is concerned, and being airy, being in the air. He was very practical, and he basically helped me learn how to live, because I was 19, 20. And so through different life circumstances and different friendships and different relationships, I have to say that I wasn't stable enough, and meditation only increased that instability. So I was already sensitive then, and after meditating for 2 hours, I was even more. But when I was on my own, I was able to deal with that. But then when I was drawn into these friendships that were around my teacher, then I realized that I wasn't able to just speak my truth, to be responsible, I was somehow very chaotic. So I had to stop meditating, because I felt it wasn't doing me good then. And that I needed to be more grounded. I needed to learn how to live. And part of myself also wanted to run away, really. And so but my desire for God, so to say, it has never left me, ever. But I just knew that this is where I need to be more. I need to live. I need to know how. And then I make it short until the year 2020, and which I felt a very big, very extremely intense pull inside again into meditation. And the desire was growing, desire for the truth, for the peace, for truth, for God. I don't know how else to say it. It's just words.
That's a good way to say it.
It was very intense. I thought, if I don't do something, I don't know, I will explode.
Yeah.
But I was afraid, because I had that experience.
Right.
I was afraid that it's escapism again. I was afraid that I'm not ready to go back into meditation. And so I was observing myself for maybe a couple of months. I didn't want to step in right away. I was constantly asking deep questions. I was observing how I live. And then after the 6 months, probably, I evaluated, no, this is different this time. I don't want to run away. I really like my life. I love my life. I enjoy my life. I want to be a good person, because sometimes, you just want to meditate, but you don't see that you need to be a good person. Even if you don't have any kind of enlightening experiences, who you are, how you live is crucial. And so I was kind of trying to be honest with myself. And I was in my relationship then, even though it was a bit difficult, I still knew that this is my call. I can't run away from this. I don't want to. And after this kind of self-testing period, I saw a documentary. I had deep questions that had nobody to ask then, and I didn't want just to read in the books about God, about what is the deeper stuff. And then I saw a documentary on near-death experience, and then I saw Bill McDonald, my friend now, I can say, I'm honored to say, documentary on his near-death experience. And I was really moved by it, moved by him, because I felt some kind of purity that I hadn't felt for many years. I just felt it with these mystics, the Czech mystics, and my teacher. And so I was impacted by his appearance. And because he was talking about his experience, I felt drawn to write him my questions. And he got back to me. But why am I saying this? Is he mentioned Kriya Yoga. It was just in one sentence. And I somehow, it got my attention
you saw
immediately.
Something snapped. Yeah.
Exactly. Something snapped. And I was madly looking it up, how can I get into it? What is that? How can I get into it? Because I wasn't looking for an unstructured way to meditate.
Yeah.
I needed something that is really grounded in everyday life, where everyday life and who you are as a person, how you behave, is part of that path. Because I knew that it's not healthy for me if I just go into meditation. So I was just looking for something more complex, more real, more grounded. And when I started reading about Kriya Yoga, I was frantically looking for how do I get in touch with this tradition. And then there was SRF, but I'm not a community person. So I knew that it's not for me, that I'm an independent person. I like to be on my own. And then I found Siddhanath Gurunath, and that was Bill's teacher and friend. And then I found Ryan Kurczak, my teacher, and because he's quite big on YouTube. And he's got the really brilliant videos, educative videos, very complex. So I really liked Ryan from the very beginning. I felt really drawn to him, close, like to an old friend or an old acquaintance. I don't know how else to say that. And through Ryan, I understood, okay, so Roy Eugene Davis initiated him. So I looked up Roy's CSA, and then I found out that actually there are very few Kriya Yoga centers in Europe or in the Czech Republic. In the Czech Republic, there's none of that sort. It's just one little one in Prague. But 100 kilometers from where I was born, there is the Ryskes couple who were initiated by Roy. And they have been doing that for decades, I can say now, here in Germany. And I live in Germany at the moment. I'm not German, but I live here now. So I got initiated in 2021 in Passau by the Ryskes. So this is my history. And I have to say that I have been meditating for 4 years now, every single day. Like sometimes I struggled with some health insomnia issues, so it was sometimes challenging, but I have been on since they initiated me. I'm not in touch with them, but I felt I needed to be part of that tradition with this conscious decision to get the initiation, just like the new beginning, as it said. And so my experience with meditation, Kriya Yoga, is very specific. It's different than when I was meditating at the age of 19 and 20. It's very much impacting my my calmness, my how consciously I I am able to deal with things. But I know that the most important part of the day comes when I get up for meditation and how conscious I am. So for me, it's intertwined. I can't function just on meditation. I know I have many issues, many problems. There are many complexes still I have, but I know that Kriya Yoga is building some kind of support and clarity to deal with those things. And what is the most striking thing for me is that I'm mostly on my own. I don't have any guru. I don't have any teacher except for Ryan. I take him as my Kriya Yoga teacher, but on most of the time I'm on my own. And what's unbelievable about Kriya Yoga, it impacts the guidance I receive from life, I would say. That's incredible. For example, I have a problem. I try to solve something and I don't know what to do about it. It's something I have never had in my life, and I try to solve the problem. And I already know, okay, this is what my then teacher, Milan, I have to say the name, who told me, if you can't figure out in 5 minutes, you don't have the solution. Because I was very much based in my head, extremely. So what so now, when I have a problem, I know, okay, when I don't know really now, I don't know the answer. And I keep my mind, I keep sending away, okay, I'm sorry to say, shut up, you don't know. You don't have it in your system now. And it's amazing that the answer, it comes always, almost always. It's when it comes on its own, I suddenly know the answer, or I notice something either in a book or a person telling me, but most of the time it's really that it comes on its own accord.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's very deep stuff. It's not just that I don't know what to do about my health or, these things too, but this is a painful process sometimes for me. I know I have to figure out on my own with my logical mind. But these things are different when I not fight, but when I'm unhappy about something and I don't understand, and I would like to see the path ahead of me. I can see the impact of Kriya Yoga on my consciousness. Kind of, I imagine it that it helps me reach the answer beyond my mind.
Yeah.
When I'm surrendered enough, when I'm calm enough and open enough. And when I'm with my life vibrationally in alignment with being a truthful person or not harming others, which not always I'm successful at. But this is something that is for me personally unbelievable, that the answer comes even though it can be a very deep philosophical problem or concerning my life, I mean. So not just being calmer, not just being more in alignment with life, but the fact that when I need answer to something that nobody can tell me, I get it. So to me, this is one of the great impacts of Kriya Yoga on my life.
Isn't it? Yeah. That's beautiful. Roy used to say, if you want to, look, you're facing a problem or you need to know the answer to something, he would say, have expectation of a discovery. And I think that's kind of, it's like, you just know, all right, I need the answer or the insight. And it's just you just hold that awareness of it and be open to it. And it just somehow comes in. It can be through the radio or just through insight or something. Someone says it just
Yes,
comes
it
in.
clicks. Yes, exactly.
Yeah, that's really sweet.
And there was one conflict also when the more I was meditating, because now I try to meditate twice a day, every single day, morning longer, evening shorter, because then somehow I don't need to sleep that much, and
Yeah.
it's kind of messing my schedule. But
Mm.
I started having more physical issues, I have to say, with Kriya Yoga. And then I understood that it was actually showing me where I'm not balanced. So
Yeah.
it kind of shed the light on, is it correct? Or
Yeah.
it was like a lamp shining on things that are wrong, how I function. So the things where I have never been healthy, attitudes, or how I eat, or how I behave to my body,
Yep.
they increased incredibly. And I didn't understand until a couple of months ago. I said, like, why is this happening? It's just getting worse and worse. These things, I don't know what to do about this. And the more I was meditating, the worse it got. And then it's how to say that? I understood. I said, okay, if meditation is about balancing you out, so you probably have to see things that are wrong, that are hurtful to you or to others, where you still have your ego, where you are in this very active, I'm very much pitta type.
Yeah.
You can
I can see
tell.
that. Mm-hmm.
So where am I like really on all the time? I can't rest. I like resting in meditation, but then when I get up, I'm very active all day long.
Right. Very productive.
And
Yeah.
yes, exactly. So I understood this is not actually natural to me. And so I'm trying to alleviate that or balance it more out for the sake of it's just some kind of subconscious drive that's not healthy and that
Yeah.
can be hurtful to myself or others. So
Yeah.
Kriya Yoga really is for me like light that shines on things, but the problem is when you run away from them, you just make them grow.
That's right.
That's why I had to stop meditating 25 years ago, because I didn't do anything in my everyday life. I was just meditating.
Yeah.
So that's why I also love Roy's approach, the practicality, because
Yeah.
and that's why I chose also Ryan, because he's
Yeah.
very much grounded.
Yeah.
Because
Yogananda was the same way. Yeah. Very, very practical. Yeah. Yeah.
yes,
It's interesting. Sometimes people get on the path and start practicing Kriya, and that stuff that you're talking about comes up. And then they go, "Oh, I thought things were going to be easier." You know?
exactly.
And the answer is, well, you're really lucky to be learning the things you're learning. And if you address these, well, then it does. You know, it doesn't mean that there's not more to learn. It's the path of discovery.
Yes, yes, yeah.
Yeah.
And
I
that's
think as
why
long as we're
also,
alive too, to a certain degree.
yes,
Yeah.
yeah. And I think that's why also uh, people sometimes tend to run away from that path. And
Yeah.
it's not only about meditation, because meditation is one of many, like it's one limb of yoga. It's,
Yeah.
it's not the everything. Then there is, as Sri Yukteswar said, yamas and niyamas are the absolute total base of the yogic path, which are the moral principles.
Mm-hmm.
And not everybody hears that, or I also wasn't aware until now, when I meditate more, that it requires somehow even to be a better person. The
That's
more I
right.
meditate, the more I have to be more conscious with how I deal with people. And
That's right.
if there is some kind of disbalance, it always shows up someplace in my life. And that's why I find meditation sometimes without all these things around lifestyle, being grounded, dangerous, because it can take the demons out, so to say, a little bit, or the stuff that is being suppressed, our dark unconscious programming or subconscious behaviors,
tendencies.
yes.
It's the more conscious you are, again, it's that path of discovery. The more conscious you are, little things or things that used to be little, well, now you're more conscious of them, so they have a bigger effect, or you notice the effect more sometimes. It happens too, like when people change their diet, they're eating a lot of junk and processed foods and all that, and they get off of all that stuff, and then they'll tell me later, they go, well, I feel more sensitive. Like they'll eat like something that's not so great, and they feel it a lot more. And so the question is, did I mess myself up because I used to be able to eat this junk food and now it makes me feel sick? And it's like, no, it's always made you feel that way. But you had so much other stuff going on, you didn't see it or feel it. But now you're more clear and there's more consciousness. So it's not that it's increasing those things, but your awareness of what's causing we're going to call it a blockage or whatever. I don't have a better term right now, but whatever that is, it's magnified because we're more aware of it.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's exactly my hands-on experience with Kriya Yoga, really physical.
Well, thank you so much for
Yes.
sharing all that. Um, it's really good to meet you, and I'm so grateful to uh, know another Kriya yogi out there in Germany.
Yeah, thank you very much. It was very nice talking to you, Ryan. It was also very nice to meet you and to know you. And I'm looking forward to our next session.
That'd be great.
We already discussed that we might be talking about a chakra system and nervous
Yep,
system.
that'd be great.
I think
Yep.
that's a great topic. And before we end, could you please share where people can reach out to you if you are open to it?
Yeah, absolutely. So anyone that wants to reach out to me, they can just try to contact me telepathically. No, you can email me at Ryan, Ryan at it's Ryan at Living Kriya Yoga, one word, livingkriyayoga.org.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll
And
get back to you.
and Ryan, do you also do any online teaching, or is
Yeah.
it just in person?
No, the courses coming up that start in January, we meet once a month through June. Those are all online. Yeah,
Excellent. So
yeah,
people can also reach out to you if they want to be a part of your program. And
absolutely. Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, right now, I think we have another eight spots available. So, and it's all
Mm-hmm.
donation basis. We're not charging.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, very good. So once again, Ryan, thank you very much for your time. And we'll be looking forward to talking to you again, and you have a very nice day.
You too. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.